Well, for more on Iran, the U.S. sanctions, and the way forward, I'm joined live by Pierre Pahlavi from Toronto. He's the chair of the Department of Security and International Affairs and Deputy Director at the Defense Studies Department at the Canadian Forces College. Welcome, Pierre.
Very nice to have me.
Now, break down for us exactly which measures the U.S. is reimposing on Iran and what this means for the future of the nuclear Iran deal.
Well, basically, the Trump administration is reimposing the full panoply of sanctions that were lifted back in 2016 as part of the Joint Comprehensive Action Plan, the so-called GCPOA. Those are sanctions that are targeting key economic sector of the Iranian regime, including the oil and energy industry, as well as other sectors, related sectors such as shipping, trading, and banking. What is interesting about those sanctions is that they're crafted as secondary sanctions, meaning that they're designed to make doing business with Iran very difficult, to dissuade, if you will, other countries than the United States or Iran to engage in trade with Iran, and especially from purchasing Iranian oil.
Now, you mentioned a number of sectors, so what sort of impact should Iran's economy be bracing for with all these?
Well, the impact on the Iranian economy won't be felt immediately. They won't be hitting the Iranian economy overnight. This is simply because the pressure has been building up over the past few months, ever since the initial Trump announcement back in May. Knowing that those sanctions were coming, Western firms and companies have elected to terminate their activities in Iran, to cease to do business with Iranian companies. So you could say that to some extent, most of the damage has been done already.
Right.
However, those damages are going to progressively cripple and hit the regime, slowing down its activities, and again harming those key sectors, oil and energy industry, trading, shipping, and banking, all of them largely under the control of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. For example, over the past few months, Iran's oil exports have been dropping by more than 1/3, and more is expected to come in terms of decrease at that level.
Now, Pierre, a lot of people are wondering why the U.S. is pursuing these sanctions when other parties through the nuclear deal say that Iran is still in compliance.
Well, there are many different hypotheses, many different interpretations about the goals pursued by the Trump administration with the use of those sanctions. Some critics go as far as to say that there is no plan, and those sanctions come out of an addiction of the Trump administration to using sanctions as a foreign policy tool. Some others believe that the sanctions are meant to produce the favorable conditions for regime change. Most experts consider, however, that the idea in applying increased pressure on the regime is to bring the Iranian leaders back to the negotiation table to try to obtain a better deal for the West,
right,
a more comprehensive one that would include some additional elements, such as limitation on Iran's activities seen as malign in the region, as well as restrictions on the development of the Iranian ballistic missile program.
Now, Pierre, I do want to get to the exemptions before we run out of time. Obviously, several countries were excluded from this list, but were allowed to continue doing business with Iran when it comes to oil. So what does all this mean for Iran's key trade partners, especially given China and Europe?
Well, it's interesting to see that Mike Pompeo has included China, not Europe, given the fact that most of European countries have started to cease to trade with Iran, whereas China has continued to buy Iranian oil up to a week ago. The idea in including China in the waivers list is to actually make this new round of sanction more robust, because China is the main client in terms of purchasing Iranian oil. So having China in that list is one guarantee that the sanctions are going to be more effective. The other intention behind this is to avoid an escalation in the already bad-looking economic war between Beijing and Washington.
All right, thank you so much for your insights. Pierre Pahlavi there, Deputy Director of the Department of Defense Studies at the Canadian Forces College.